Hey there. Welcome. I'm Stephen, and welcome to our session 0 of this run of Sleepaway, running from April through May. Sleepaway is a Belonging Outside Belonging game by Jay Dragon, um, belonging out about a group of camp counselors who have banded together to defend the kids under their protection against a dark creature known as the Lindworm. Um, this is also hosted here on the Gauntlet. The Gauntlet, for anyone watching who does not know, is a online gaming club that produces a zine, The Codex, as well as several podcasts about OSR and indie gaming, role-playing games. It also, most importantly to us, hosts a online gaming calendar that has dozens to up to 100 events going on every month. It is open to anyone to join. You do not have to be a member. If you are interested in dropping by to play some sort of indie or OSR role-playing game, you should check out the link below and feel free to sign up for something. Yeah, I'll just do a quick go around here of clockwise around the order here in StreamYard. I'm Stephen, he, him. I'm facilitating this particular run of Sleepaway. Sleepaway does not have a GM, but it is GM full, which means that all of us will be both playing portraying a particular player character, but will also be at times asked to take up various setting elements and make moves as them, much as a GM would. So if we could continue around going in character keeper order, I'm not character keeper, in clockwise order. Bodhi, if you could just give us a quick introduction.
Hi, I'm Bodhi, they them, and I jumped on the chance when Stephen offered me a seat in this game because I played with him last July, was it? And last summer in a case, and had such a fun time with Sleepaway. It quickly became and still is one of my favorite games. So I'm really excited to kind of have a longer run at it here.
Cool.
My turn. Hello, I'm Maria, you, she, her pronouns, and I'm very excited to actually play Sleepaway because it has been like in my PDF folder forever, being like, I will play this one day. And yeah, so excited when I finally got the chance to hit RSVP on the thing.
Hello. I'm Daryl. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm just going to echo everything else that's already been said. Like, Sleepaway has also been sitting in my drive for a very long time, and I've also played with Stephen a couple of times and was looking forward to it. So, yes, this is the perfect culmination of a Saturday afternoon.
Great. So before we go any further, I also want to discuss some of the safety tools we'll be using here. As with anything else run on the Gauntlet, we make use of the Gauntlet's open door policy. If at any time you are pulled away, an emergency happens, you're just uncomfortable in the session and you need to step away for a while, feel free to. You don't have to let us know. If you don't have to let us know, but it's usually helpful to to let us know if you plan on coming back or if this is you need to step away for the rest of the session. But if it's an emergency, don't feel the need to do any of that. We're here to have fun, and sometimes real life is more important. Well, real life is always more important than having fun with us, even though we should be second after real life. like this is just I myself have had to take advantage of it a few times, even in games I've run. There was one time, if people recall, the last time I ran this, where I did not. We were in the middle of the Lindworm turn, and I did not realize I had dropped out of the call for several minutes until remaining sitting stock silent with my eyes closed. So that is one reason you might end up open dooring. Hopefully, it will be a better reason than mine, though. Besides that, we are also making use of lines and veils. Lines and veils, for anyone who's not familiar, is basically a document we put together before play, in which we go over what people are comfortable and uncomfortable with being in the game. Lines are things that we do not at all want to be in the game. Veils are things that that we are fine being in the game, but that we don't want to delve into detail about. And finally, there's also the added category of Ask First, which a lot of people here in the Gauntlet like to use. Ask First are things that you're fine being in the game. You just want to give people a heads up to please check in about it and make certain people are okay before continuing when it comes up in the game. Besides lines and after lines and veils, we also are making use of the X card. Sometimes stuff happens. Somebody accidentally steps into a line or veil. There was something that is you find uncomfortable that you hadn't expected to find uncomfortable, or just the narrative goes someplace you really don't like. The X card is an opportunity to just sort of say, I don't want this to happen. Let's cut this and have something else and do something else instead. Or I want to just cut this particular line or this particular detail. You don't need to justify why you are calling the X card, but just let us know what needs to be removed. If to signal that, you can either just declare I'm calling the X card. You can make an X card with your hand, with your arms, or you can type it here into the comments. And finally, we also have script change. Script change is a set of tools that basically uses sort of you might say like a video editing tools to sort of think about, to sort of negotiate some of the difficulties around comfort and fun that might arise in play. Pause is basically calling, let's stop for a moment and talk about what's happening here, check in and make sure everyone's all right. Fast forward is basically another way of calling for a veil over something as it in the middle of play. It's, I'm fine with this happening, but I don't want to dwell on it. It might also be that I think we're getting caught up in this scene that's really not that interesting. How about we just sort of figure out what we want to do here and just skip over to the next thing? Rewind is that you realize, well, actually, I realize in retrospect, I don't like that this happened last scene or last session. And whether it's because I realize I'm uncomfortable with it later, or because I actually have a much better idea, rewind is an opportunity to bring that in and bring it up with the rest of the players. It's, as with pretty much as something another Gauntleteer, Puckett likes to bring up. What's important to me is people's comfort. These tools are here for people to use. If you don't have, if you can't recall the name of a tool, don't feel the need to try to figure that out. Just say I'm uncomfortable, or we need to do this, and we'll stop, talk it out, and figure out what we need to do to make things to make the game fun for everyone. Does anyone have any questions about any of those? safety tools. I realize that most people here have been part of the Gauntlet for a while, so it's probably familiar with everyone here. So cool. So if people could take a look over at the lines and veils over on our character keeper, it should be the or safety tab. It should be the first tab there. I have a few that I usually add in off the bat, which is because things I do not like, which are putting veils on torture, um, uh, sex, consensual sex, and a line on sexual assault. I see that some people have already started filling things out, and some folks have helpfully added. I should have thought about this as well. Adding adding an extra section for common horror tropes that they don't want to see in this, that they might want to see or not see, because while this is a horror game, we want to be entertainingly uncomfortable, not just uncomfortable. So if people could take a look there and fill out with what you need, fill out with anything that occurs to you there. I should note, as always, this is a living document. People are not required to. We'll return to this at the start of each session to make certain that people don't. To make certain that people uh, are still cool with where it's at. We might add things over the course of play as well. Don't feel married. Don't feel that you need to add absolutely everything now, and then if there's something that occurs to you later, you're stuck with it. That's not the case. As I said, we'll return to make certain people are always okay with it. This is a living document. So if people could fill it out and just type OK into the chat to let me know when you're done. Cool. Okay. And to check out our lines and veils here to get everybody up to speed, we have lines on cancer, homophobia and transphobia, self-harm and suicide, explicit sex, although we also have explicit sex scenes, sexism, sexual assault, virus, plague, or pandemic. And we have veils on drug abuse, racism, consensual sex, torture, and vomit or vomiting, as well as snakes and spiders from the common horror tropes list. And then we have asks firsts on classism, pregnancy, and that's it for the ask firsts. So right, to kind of jump into things here, me this. As I was saying before, Sleepaway is a game about camp counselors defending the children of the camp against a creature known as the Lindworm. There are a few assumptions about the setting that kind of comes with. And just a kind of reminder of the content warnings for this game is that there is a risk to the children of the camp. It's our job to defend them, but that kind of comes with the fact that they are under threat by the Lindworm. The Lindworm is a creature, and along with that, the Lindworm is a creature that has no motivation beyond taking delight in the suffering of others, of other creatures. It enjoys preying upon those weaker than itself, and because of that, and that is why children make such a tantalizing target for it. Now, part of the game is that none of us will ever play as the Lindworm. The Lindworm is basically all sorts of toxic behavior made manifest, and so none of us will be directly portraying the Lindworm. In play, there is a mechanic by which a player will occasionally be asked to channel the Lindworm, and we will draw from the deck and to see what the Lindworm does, and we'll deal with the fallout of that, but nobody will be ever portraying the Lindworm in play. All of us are, while counselors here at the camp, have been campers here ourselves, and so the camp holds a certain nostalgic value for us. All of us have a history here at the camp, both joys as well as the terrors. Because while we were here at camp as children ourselves, we fought the Lindworm once before, but we managed to survive. Over the course of play, for those of us, because I believe I want to check in here just to double check. I believe everyone here is more or less familiar with the structure of belonging outside belonging, correct? So yeah, this game plays like many other games of belonging outside belonging, a system designed by Avery Alder for her game Dream Askew. Each playbook for there are various playbooks to choose from for player characters, and each playbook comes with a set of options that are largely fictional things defining our character's place within the world and what makes them strong, what makes them weak, things like that. Each character has a collection of moves that they'll be able to make that either gain them tokens or lose them tokens, and it's that currency that fuels a lot of the game. There are a few other mechanical bits, though, that this game adds that other belonging outside belonging games do not, and we'll be delving into some of those as we move through through character creation and building the world. There is a kind of, this game is a little bit more structured than most belonging outside belonging games. There are things like rituals and acts that provide a kind of arching narrative structure or sort of temporary alternative move sets that all of us will be able to draw from. So to start things off, if people can move to the player character tab over in the character keeper. I'm as the facilitator, I'll throw out my interests last, but I want to check in with folks. What characters here from the options there stand out to folks? I suppose I'll go reverse character keeper order to check in. Daryl, did you have any any of the playbooks that stood out to you?
Yeah, so I would say if it's in order of interest, perhaps the song leader, the crafter, or the ropes keeper.
Cool. I played the song leader last time, and it was very fun getting other people to repeat things. um, uh, yeah, and Maria, did you have any did you have any that stood out to you?
I was looking at possibly the counselor or the lifeguard, but maybe more leaning towards the counselor.
Cool. And Bodhi, did you have what stood out to you?
Uh, yeah, what stood out to me is the ropes keeper actually. So, or also the crafter, ropes keeper or crafter, I think for me.
Cool. And I was thinking of the athlete or ropes keeper, but if you're drawn to the ropes keeper, Bodhi, I'm fine picking up the athlete and playing with that then. Um, So to kind of go through what is here in each of the character sheets, as I said, there is a collection of options to choose from: your name, your look, your gender, and usually a set of things that are unique to each of the playbooks. Um, there will so people could go through that. And I think that it seems like everyone, from what I'm hearing, their first options are more or less not overlapping. So I feel like people can pick up the ones that they're interested in. And because I think, Daryl, are you going then with the song leader? Cool.
Actually, just with how I'm feeling tonight, I came into it thinking ropes keeper, but if it's because I don't think anyone's taken crafter either, so I think I might actually go with crafter because it kind of like just fits with how I'm feeling better. So if you wanted to do ropes keeper, Stephen, that's open to you
I
as
think
well as
I'm more
athlete.
drawn to athlete.
Okay,
But thank you for asking.
it's okay.
Oh, and I should note that I did copy this one bit over from the book because I did quite like it. If you go over to the charts section and scroll all the way to the right, there is a collection of various pronouns that J Dragon has had in games that they've run over the course of playtesting this, and that if you want to just just if you want any inspiration for that.
All the crafts are so good.
Cool. And it looks like people have mostly gotten their characters filled out. So are people okay with doing a brief introduction Are people firmed up a little bit on their character enough that they can give a brief introduction? And we'll jump into the second part, which is we'll jump into the next bit of asking some questions among ourselves. Cool. And okay, cool. They already took care, probably taking care of hiding the ones we're not using. So we'll just go around in character keeper order, which which I guess actually puts me first. So I hope this does not come off as too hopelessly meta to people, but I am playing the athlete Sally, who is also known in character though as Sylvain of the Ebonwood. Um, uh, while a counselor here is also into LARPing, and has a contraband weapon of a broadsword, which is more one of those, not like an actual like steel broadsword, but like a LARP broadsword, in that it's like a long heavy stick wrapped in foam. I went with for my look, explosive eyes and a blade of a body. Uh, uh, Sally is tall and lanky, and probably has a thinness that belies the fact that she can actually swing that big LARP blade as Sylvain with a really stinging force. My gender is Lonely King. And to describe my broadsword, it is proof of my heroism as the knight Sylvain of the Ebonwood, given to me by the Lord of the Ebon Court, also known as Marcus, a counselor who has since gone into retirement. I should note, Sally uses she, her, but her character, Sylvain, uses he, him. I thought I'd just note both there. So, does anyone have any questions they want to ask to clarify about Sally or Sylvain before we move on to our counselor?
Is it Sally or Sylvain or both that interact with the children at the camp? Like, is it how hidden or open is the LARPing?
I think people basically, I think it's pretty open. I think there's maybe like I think there are 3 kids. That is the LARP club in this camp. And I think that definitely like off duty, like when I'm not heading that LARP club, I'm Sally, but when it comes time to swing around the broadsword, I'm Sylvain. Cool. If nobody else has any questions, let's move on to our counselor, played by Maria.
Yeah, so I will be playing Arlie. The counselor uses they, he pronouns. They have listening eyes and a thick body. I feel like they are soft, they are cozy. Their favorite thing at home was like the fuzzy blankets out of the dryer. That's just, imagine that all the time. Actually, maybe like the toast plushie behind Steven. I think it's toast. But that's Arlie. Their gender is a vast and caring body of water. The campers listen because they pay attention to the quiet ones. And I think that's probably because in real life, when not at the camp, Arlie is also a quiet one, and so recognizes that in them, and will try to not bring them out, but like pay attention to them and talk to them in a more quiet way than in a giant group setting. The favorite activity is hiking up the old mountain, just because it's nice to go up a mountain sometimes and be alone and stare at the trees. And they almost left the camp, because I think that they've always been at the camp ever since they were a camper here. And maybe people outside were like telling them, you can't always be a counselor, you have to do something else. And they're like, no, it's nice and comfy here. I don't want to leave my comfort zone. But they managed to stick around and put off that whole life thing a little bit longer by being a counselor.
The Maria's wish fulfillment is strong in this one.
Yeah. Very true.
I'm wondering, have you ever actually like was there like a point where you actually did leave the camp for a little while, or do you think that like it was immediately like, nope, not doing that, I'm staying here?
How many years has it been since we were campers at the camp? And then, like, I guess I'm wondering, how old are we approximately?
We are probably around in our either somewhere from our late teens to early 20s, because like the kind of older teens in a summer camp kind of are able to volunteer to join the like counselor and training program, and once they kind of, I think, hit 18, they can graduate to like a full counselor, because that is, you can no longer be there as a child.
Yeah, I think then Arlie did. Maybe they weren't a counselor for one summer, and because they had moved away to go to college, but then they realized that was not the life that they were about, and decided to move back to wherever this camp is and make counseling a more major part of their life.
Cool. And then our crafter, played by Bodhi.
Okay, so I am playing Gol, who uses any pronouns, and they don't seem, they're one of those people who doesn't seem always entirely there. It's if they're half listening to some music that no one else can hear, or kind of staring off at something that no one else can see, and they have mismatched eyes. I think one green and one hazel, and an uncertain body. And by that I mean it always seems to be slightly different whenever you look at it again. It's like whenever you look at Gol, they kind of like always look slightly different, and you can never kind of work out why or how. And their gender is tree kisser. Their childhood fear is drowning in a lake and no one hearing. And Gol's craft is augury. And I mean the traditional kind of original sense of augury, which is divination by interpreting the flight paths of birds. And I think that a lot of the other crafts also had kind of some effect on the world rather than being kind of purely divination. So I'm going to throw out there that maybe in the most extreme circumstances, if it's really a crisis, they can commune with the birds and kind of affect their flight paths and kind of like push things one way or another, but that's a kind of really, really kind of extreme thing. And the features of this augury is it cannot be used to lie. If goals speaking about what they've seen, they either have to say what they have genuinely seen or stay silent. They can't mislead about what they saw. Like, it's not necessarily that it's infallible what they saw, but they can't deliberately be false about what it is that they saw. And it cannot be repeated. And that's, I think, if everyone's comfortable with this, that's kind of by anyone, kind of like anyone that I tell kind of finds themselves kind of unable to kind of tell anyone else where they got the information from. They can say what's going to happen, but they can't say that how they know. It's kind of this kind of magical prescription against that. And yeah, so I'm kind of imagining Gull as kind of quite androgynous, quite elfin, quite otherworldly.
Has Gull always been able to read birds, or has it been like a thing that they recently discovered about themselves?
I don't think it's something that they recently discovered. I think it's something that first started happening the first year they came to the camp, and it was terrifying, but I think the crafter back then kind of helped them through it, and that's kind of why the camp became a safe place for them, because these kind of like terrifying, uncontrollable insights were kind of tamed there and became something that Go could use there, if that makes sense.
Cool. And it looks like then that brings us to our song leader, played by Daryl.
Yeah, so I'm playing the song leader. Her name is Ursula, and she uses she, her pronouns. Ursula is she's about 20. She's in college, comes back to the camp for summers, and has been doing that for a couple of years. She is an athletic type, and actually does cheer at the camp at the university that she goes to. And the only reason that she's able to do that is because before going to the camp, she was incredibly intensely introverted, and it was only through the guidance of the camp and through the adventures that she had there that she felt kind of like inspired and empowered to kind of like redefine who she is on her own terms. And so that's why she continues to come back to the camp to help other like campers in the same way, and then also to protect them, because when she became a counselor and realized that there was actual also danger, she felt even more indebted to the counselor who originally helped her. She is someone who has a name with a pleasing sound. Her look is that she has pointed eyes and a fluid body. Her gender is blackberry blossom. Her childhood fear is no one being able to see or hear her. Her singing voice is playful and meandering, like a chase through tall grass. And she has the ability to lead people in songs. And so two of the songs that she currently focuses on is a group song, No Outside Force Could Ever Interrupt, and a story song that campers always listen to in quiet, rapt focus.
Hmm. What kind of stories do you tell?
So Ursula really likes to make songs that are kind of inspired by old-fashioned literature. So like one of her favorite ones, that the one that actually she uses to keep the attention on her, is like an adaptation of like the Jabberwock from Alice in Wonderland. And but she always spins it in like such a way that it becomes this really like hypnotizing tale that the campers can't seem to like tear themselves away from, or things that like old nursery rhymes and things like that that she gives sort of a modern twist.
Cool. And did anyone else have any questions? I did have one question. You said you were a cheerleader outside of camp?
Yeah, that's probably like what she does, as like kind of athletics outside of her like university degree. So this isn't
Okay.
something that she does full time. She's like
Okay.
she's a student as like she's not like employed by the camp year round. She
No,
comes back
yeah,
during the
yeah.
summers.
No, yeah. Presumably most of us are primarily employed here part-time during summers. Uh, but yeah, cool. So now that we've gotten the characters introduced, I think the last thing I want to do before calling the first break of the session is if you go down to underneath the options for your character, there's a list there of 3 questions and the instruction to ask 2 total to the other players. And I think usually the way that going online this works easiest is well, I guess actually it usually helps spread it out more if we do it one at a time, so that some people don't end up kind of clumped together too much. Um, so to just kind of basically these are just kind of ways of fleshing out our history with each other and figuring out and giving us a starting point to figure out how we might relate to each other. Um, these presumably our relationships will change over play. Uh, this doesn't have any mechanical impact beyond giving us a starting point. Um, and I'm wondering, I guess I can just open up here, and I kind of wanted to ask this of our crafter. Do I take care of you, and do you want me to?
I think yes, you do. And it's a complicated question whether I want you to. I think
Well,
that I do, except when I don't. I can be quite kind of be a little bit capricious about it, if that's okay, if that's comfortable for you.
hmm. I'm wondering, what have you? Oh, what like? I'm just kind of thinking of like what would I have done that you would have like actually like scorned or not accepted?
I think I think I was in a kind of art session with a group of campers, and I was just losing control of them. Like I wasn't kind of keeping their attention. I wasn't kind of like they were all kind of wandering off and not and playing pranks and
Oh, yes,
That
but then
I think.
Sylvain of the Ebonwood decides to sweep in and make a big scene to get their attention. And it kind of entirely missed the point because now like the attention was all on me doing my annoying role-playing sketch and like not on the lesson. And so
Mhm.
and so I can see why this is probably annoyed Gull more than been helpful at times.
Yeah, I think that you're really good at correctly perceiving when I need help, and not
Not
always
good
so
at
great
helping
at
though.
working out
Yes.
what type of help is appropriate.
Right. Okay. Cool. So yeah, if we could go around, kind of go around the character keeper order. M- Arlie, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah. Should I pick a person to answer the question too, or
Yeah.
just throw it out? Okay.
No, just like throw. Like, if you have like a question you want to ask that you don't know who to give it to, feel free
Yeah.
to just throw it out. But also feel free to just be like, decide because you can kind of determine like certain things are now true about the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to be fighting with someone, ask them the question, why do we keep fighting?
All
For
right.
example.
There's any of these would work with anyone. Let's just ask Ursula. How do we get each other in a way that other people don't, if that is okay with you?
Yeah. So like Arlie seems to be very like standoffish, and possibly that comes from maybe like a desire to kind of like be introverted and do their own thing and like charge up on their own way. And so um, maybe it's that like Ursula, despite being like incredibly extroverted at this point, has never once told you that like you needed to like be more outgoing or like needed to do anything that you were uncomfortable with, and like has kind of like always like met you on your own terms.
Right. And I think maybe Arlie, if we were campers at the same time in the past, remembers when Ursula was as quiet as they are and as introverted. And so they have that, like maybe back in the day, they used to run into quiet places together. I don't know. Something like
Totally
that.
like snuck away and like read books like
Yeah.
in the same glen and never spoke to each other.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if the rest of us are just convinced that for a while the two of you were just an item because you kept sneaking off into the woods together.
Just read some books. No.
Just book reading. That's it. It's not code for anything else. But yeah, so if that works for you, then
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, and then Gull, did you have a question you wanted to ask of one of us?
Yes, I think I want to. I want to ask Arlie, how did you rescue me? If that's okay, if that works.
Yeah. Let me think. The first thing that came to mind was kind of looking at your childhood fear about drowning in a lake. And Arlie is not the most athletic person of our campers at all, but potentially they just happened to be there. Maybe we were on a canoe or something, and like it wasn't particularly dangerous, but it was just like close, like we were in the lake, and it was just close enough that like very literally Arlie just grabbed your hand and pulled you back into the boat or something.
And I want to maybe give some emotional weight to that. Maybe you saw it was more to do with that you saw how scared I was. It wasn't that I was so much in physical danger
Yeah.
and you saved me from that. It was that you helped me deal with my fear, and it was kind of more, it was an emotional rescue as much as a physical one.
Was it
Does that
like,
work for you?
yeah, was it like you maybe froze when we were getting into the boat and like almost fell in, but maybe Arlie, like I played it out as though, yes, they were totally fine. This wasn't like, there wasn't, I guess, like they covered for you in a way in front of the campers.
Yeah, I think that works, and maybe kind of we talked about it afterwards. I kind of like, I want to set it up so that Gull's kind of really grateful to you for that, and it's something that they wouldn't forget.
Yeah, maybe now. Oh, go ahead.
Is there kind of like the image I'm getting is of like Gull hyperventilating in the boat once they're pulled in, and like Arlie just kind of sitting there with them and helping them calm down?
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what I was picturing.
Maybe now if we walk by the lake, Arlie will walk on the side that's closer to the water.
Oh, I like that.
Cool. And then Ursula, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, so I think it would be interesting to ask Gull, why did we grow apart all those years ago?
See, that's an interesting one, because I was going to ask Ursula, why did you abandon the craft on the next round? And I wonder if those can tie together. And I think I felt like, I think I opened up to you about how scary knowing the things I know can be, and you didn't respond in the way that I'd hoped, and I'll kind of leave it up to you to kind of how you responded, if that works for you.
Yeah. Let's see, knowing what I know about Gull, I feel like maybe I was like pushy, and I was like the opposite approach that I would take with Arlie. Maybe I was pushy with it, and I was like, the only way to overcome that fear is to like really dive into it and like see how you could control it or something like that. And maybe it was like egging you on towards something that you weren't comfortable with.
I think that's when I learned how to do that control element of my craft that I have, and that's also why I will only do that in extreme circumstances, because I went too deep into that too fast and got freaked by it, and maybe even kind of like slightly scarred by it. And it's kind of a weird combination of, I appreciate what you did by opening that up to me, but also can never really kind of fully feel comfortable with you again because of how hard that was.
Oh, that sounds good. I mean, bad, but good.
See, the problem with naming it The Craft is that I just continue to think of the movie The Craft whenever anyone talks about it. But yeah, I think of my questions. What do I want to throw out there? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'll throw this out too, I think. Arlie, why do I feel okay opening up to you?
Why? Is it because I maybe just... I feel like this maybe started out as an accident. Like maybe I walked in on you having in one of your more down moments. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and it was something I was kind of toying with for the character. I think maybe did I kind of confess sort of, because I do kind of feel like it feeds into the whole LARP thing, feeds into maybe my character's sort of gender identity issues and like whether like what pronouns they more identify with when you came in on this. And I feel like how willingly were you the recipient for this conversation, or was it like one of those? Were you willing to sit there and listen, or was it more one of those like, oh, now I can't leave and they're talking?
I think it might have started out as like the latter, but then I think because Arlie is Arlie, they realize that they have a lot of shoulder to cry on, and kind of because I think with Arlie, I was thinking about them being kind of insecure about like their body is not typically whatever. And so I think potentially they were also, it's like that you're being vulnerable with me, I can be vulnerable with you thing. But I don't know. Go ahead. I didn't have anything else to say.
I was, because you said like shoulder to lean on. I do think I have done that, and I think just because I think that I have fallen asleep once or twice in the middle of doing that, just because you are so comfy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Have I managed as a result to cajole you into having a character within my LARP setting?
I think you're working on it.
Okay.
I think Arlie needs a little bit more tempting or some exciting role to fill in your LARP setting.
Okay.
Arlie doesn't want a broadsword.
Well, you can't have my broadsword, Arlie. You'll have to get your own.
Yeah, Arlie's just like, do I have to have a sword? I just want to do laundry or something. I have to ask these two questions, or one of these two questions now.
I know you asked the nice one.
I know. I know. Just why I'm struggling. I feel like this will make a fun, complex relationship no matter who I ask it of. Goal. What can't we resolve within our friendship?
Let me know if you're okay with the possibility of like character romance, but the first thing that brings to mind, I think, bring to mind is like whether it should be more than a friendship, and we kind of keep dancing around that and never kind of like, never kind of leaning one way or the other. Definitely.
Yep, that works for me.
Cool.
Was this something that started after like the boat incident, or is this just something that's even before that was like a thing that they had?
I think before the boat incident, because I want to avoid the trope of kind of falling for the person who rescues you.
Yeah.
Like,
Cool.
I think it was just a thing for a long time.
Cool.
Cool. And then that Gull, do you have which of? Or I think you actually you jumped to why did you abandon the craft?
Oh
If you,
yes,
yeah, you can ask
yeah. I
you
think
can
I'll.
ask if you want to like ask a different question to someone else
No.
because we
I
kind of
think
okay.
I think I'll stick with that. I think that Ursula. Why did you abandon the craft? If you are good with that.
Yeah. So I like the idea that we bonded over the craft. But I feel like maybe we did it in different ways. And so like maybe like my thing was like bird song, and that's actually why I my songs have this power. Um, but like I never, and it's one of these things where it's like I don't like using it. I'm not the sorcerer who's rejected their powers kind of trope. Um, but it's like when we fell apart and when I also think like maybe something bad happened. Like it wasn't just that like I pushed you too hard or too far or something like that. Like maybe because of that, like some sort of disaster befell us. And like with that tragedy, I'm actually kind of okay with it. Like maybe being like my mentor, the one who inspired me. Maybe they got hurt or something. If that's too far, feel free to retcon. But it scared me off.
That's fine with me. That if it's fine with everyone else. I love having a little bit of kind of higher stakes stuff kind of sprinkled into character backstories. And great.
Okay, well, then it's my turn for my last question. I'm gonna turn it to Sally, and I'm gonna say, "What have you said to me, but never to anyone else?"
Oh, I love you, but it was in character, so you can't hold that against me. Like I was saying it in character, Ursula. You get that, right? Right?
I wasn't aware we were playing a game in that particular moment, Sally, but if you say so.
Oh, yeah. I sometimes they can sometimes games can spring up almost out of the blue. And she just kept blushing harder and harder as that conversation went on.
yeah, I'm very, very fine with that. And so there's this weird ambiguity of like what's real, what's not. Like, am I imagining things? I don't understand. I'm
I mean, you're
confused.
probably not.
No, definitely not. Like, but it's the innocence of
Yes.
youth.
Cool. And that brings us to answering to through character creation. Before wrapping things up, I just want to remind folks that each of the characters I kind of set it apart up at the top. Beside the other thing, each character, and as in many belonging outside belongings has, is a lure. Each of us has a trigger that encourages other player characters to interact with you, or a part of the world that you are concerned with. So, for example, as the athlete, every time someone respects me or my autonomy, they get a token. So this is a thing that gets other player characters tokens, as opposed to your weak moves that get you tokens. Um, if we could just go around just in character keeper order to familiarize ourselves with the lures for when play begins, it's just useful to keep that in the back of our heads as an extra thing. So just going on to Arlie.
My lure is that every time someone engages with a camper as a fully realized character, they get a token.
And my lure is every time someone questions your eccentric worldview, they get a token.
For me, it's every time someone answers your voice with their own, echoing your words, sentiment, or tone exactly, they get a token.
Cool. And so I'm going to call the first break here. And I think this will probably be actually, because I think we'll mostly do session 0 stuff today. Will probably be our only major break. So I'm going to cut this a bit longer at about, so how about we call a 15-minute break here? And we'll meet back up at, I'm seeing almost 20 after, so let's say 35 after. Hey there, welcome back everyone. Everyone cool with starting things up again? Cool. So after taking a look here at the characters, I wanted to jump over to the setting elements. The setting elements of like most belonging outside belonging games, the setting elements denote various kind of actors in the world of the game that exist beyond the player characters. In this particular, in Sleepaway, the setting elements are mostly connected to the various areas of the campground and elements of the camp. You'll note, of course, that the lindworm is not a setting element because no one will ever actually plays the lindworm. The lindworm follows its own set of rules, disconnected from this. But what I want to go through here was to do kind of an introduction of each of the setting elements, and kind of we can work together to sort of make some decisions about what each of them about what each of them are. And I think probably the way I'll do this is that we'll take turns introducing the elements and then make some decisions together as a group. So I'll just kind of open with the field. The field is young, bright, and full of life and victorious play. It is here where young warriors play under the hot sun and where happy-go-lucky teens fool around within the shade. It is a place for doing, not for talking, and its heart is the rhythm of movement and innocent joy. The field is a place of overflowing with energy. It desires decisive action, movement, fun, happiness, peace, fast travel, and community coming together. The field can be many fields in the summer camp, but it is always the field. And a thing you'll note is that unlike many other belonging outside belonging games, many of these setting elements are more defined in what they want. Most of them don't have the question, what do they want, because it's already been decided. But we do choose some aesthetic elements that define them for the camp. And I'm wondering for folks, do any of the aesthetic elements stand out to them as things they want to be true of the fields of the campground?
I want them to be clearly loved. I think that's beautiful.
I like mist covered.
I like that.
Are they covered with mist all day or just in the mornings?
I feel like in the mornings, and then maybe it's like mist covered and dewy, because then it's like the time of day indicates like what the weather is.
Like there's always a coolness to the air in the field. Cool. And as all the setting elements have some of the similar structure kind of going down, there are tips that offer some advice for running the element. All of them always ask, I should note that like while volunteering to take on the role of the element means that you usually have jurisdiction over what that element covers. Much like a GM of any Apocalypse World game, you're encouraged to ask compelling questions and build on the answers others give. So even when you are running the element, you should not feel the need to have to invent everything yourself. You though, like it's your job sort of to provide the action for the element, not to invent everything related to it. but there are also cues that offer guidance on when to pick it up, as well as when to give it away. The setting elements of this game, compared to other Belonging Outside Belonging games, are a little bit more emotional than they necessarily represent specific places. Like, they do represent when you're in the field, it's a good idea to pick up the field. But they also have pick-up whens that say things like, the mist clings to the grass in the morning and feels right. Like, the field, for example, is a good setting element to pick up when you want people to be playful and energetic, as opposed to when you want them to be secretive and melancholy, which you might pick up the lake. But yeah, Bodhi, if you could take the woods. And you can skip that last paragraph on the robes keeper.
The woods are an old place, far older than the camp, and filled with the aching pain only acquired from generations of trauma. The woods are dedicated to revealing, opening, and inspiring, but are also apathetic and filled with the weight of its own memories. If you treat the woods with respect, it might respect you. Live within the woods, and you'll become one of its own. The woods are a mournful place. It desires to be left alone, to bring together, to heal, to talk, to reveal, and to live independent of cruelty and misunderstanding.
Cool. And I feel like there is a very obvious one. The woods impact. Usually, if there is a ropes keeper, they'd be the one choosing it. But I feel like there's a very obvious one, given our group, given what we've talked about as a group, that feels very tied into what people have been talking about. Which is that one that's to reveal spoken lies with birdsong.
I didn't even know that one was there. There's so many connections between things in this game.
Yeah.
It's great.
I kind of want to give it then the aesthetic element of distrusting. Like, the woods has like, we can enter the woods, but it's never entirely going to trust us being there.
Unless I think that's great, and I think unless anyone else has something that they want to put in there, because I know that I'm suggesting perhaps more than my share, I kind of want to counterpoint that with hopeful, like distrusting, but hopeful that it can find someone or something it can trust. It's kind of like it's not a cynical distrust.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And Maria, could you take introducing the lake?
Sure.
And you can also skip that last paragraph.
All right. So the lake is where secrets go to die. When it is present in the story, it seems to cover up and distort truth by swallowing it under the waves. Although the lake is not an agent of the lindworm, it can often work in the lindworm's favor, hiding its influence and putting others in danger. The lake is a hungry place. It desires to conceal, to feed on secrets, to smother, to kill, to grow beyond its banks, to seduce, to lure, and to keep the truth hidden beneath its waves.
Cool. And I'll throw this out because I know Maria hasn't gotten a chance to talk much in this conversation yet. Do any of those elements stand out to you, Maria?
Oh, I like reflective, I think. I like the idea of it being, while it is a hungry place, it is a place that is also still and will show you what you not necessarily might not want to see, but it will show you what you are, maybe. Literally.
Yeah, and Daryl, was there another one that stood out to you?
I was kind of drawn toward either just like going really on point and saying like hungry, or maybe actually revealing.
I like either of those. Did one appeal to you more?
I think I kind of like revealing, um, in like a very like, like uh, almost Monster Heartsy kind of way. It's all like, oh, this is definitely not something that should have come out, but here it is.
Yeah. And cool. And Daryl, if you could take introducing the campers for us.
The campers. The campers are a diverse body of fools, fiends, and toadies who love nothing more than to get up to terrible mischief and vex your existence. And you love every single one of them oh so much. The campers are young and full of confusion, but are also always capable of more than you'd expect. Campers are capable of helping you and each other, but can never understand the stakes of the lindworm. The campers are a group of kind souls. They desire freedom, autonomy, space to make mistakes, parental guidance, wisdom from elders, fun, jokes, and drama. The counselor never begins with the campers and should avoid picking them up.
Yeah, and unlike the other setting elements, the campers don't come with a set of aesthetic options, but if you scroll down, whenever we introduce a camper character, there's a list there that we use to describe the camper's gender. And to do that, we pick one from each list and check it off to show that it's been taken. So we might decide that a camper is a closed pill bug, or an empty cicada, or a masculine dragon, things like that. And I think, is there anything else I wanted to say about that? Yeah, and that is just kind of the campers get, because for the most part the campers are characters. They're given a little, they're a little bit more personalized in how we describe them. But yeah, I'll continue on to magic. The magic is a force, something that pervades all of existence and inhabits the secret parts of the world where humans haven't been. To guide the magic is a process known as crafting, something that can only be done carefully and precisely. The magic is only as violent as its users, but it can also be a capricious and odd force. No one knows if the magic is real, but it feels like it is in its quiet and subtle ways. The magic is a tricky force. It desires stories, adventures, heroes, villains, art, beauty, joy, and above all, improbable coincidences. The crafter begins with the magic, but you put it down quickly. So I did want to throw this out to Bodhi, since you're playing the crafter. Do one of those visual metaphors for the magic appeal to you?
Yes, I think a specific knobbled tree, just because how kind of how that's going to go. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes in our kind of camp creation bit, and also I think kind of elaborating on our very strong bird theme. I think that kind of that can be a place where kind of maybe there's always a bird that sits. And I think if I remember, yes, in the chat, Daryl was gunning for a wise old owl NPC, so that specific novel tree kind of allows that possibility. So yeah, that's that's the one that jumped out at me.
Yeah, and I wanted to throw this out again to Maria. Do any of those stand out to you?
I like flashlights. I just like the thought of flashlights piercing the dark, campers getting up to no good with flashlights, like all of like fun
also
that
maybe
flashlights are.
flashlights that are actually fairy lights leading one off into the darkness.
Yeah. Flashlights are just so much fun, and then the batteries don't work and it's all bad. So there's just a lot of flashlight potential, I think.
Cool. And then the last setting element that we have to begin the game with is the strangeness. Now, the strange, and actually, yeah, if you want to introduce the strangeness, you can ignore that last paragraph, Bodhi, but if you want to introduce the first paragraph.
Sure. The strangeness are the old creatures of the world who arrived to this barren earth long before we did, and carry with them the rats and pests and squirming pieces of faraway lands. They have blood on their hands, but they do not allow it to faze them, preferring instead to dwell on what could have been. The strangeness knows about things they shouldn't, and have many secrets and truths to offer, if you'll listen. Sometimes the strangeness is just a possum that keeps walking after getting hit by a car. Sometimes it is an entire commune beneath the hills with their own laws and a god made of broken concrete. They are not the lindworm, but perhaps they can help.
And so, where the magic represents a force that may or may not be there, but that we can nevertheless draw on, perhaps. The strangeness represents those various parts of the world that are inhabited by things other than the human. The strangeness is a kind of placeholder setting element, if you will, that's only going to be there for the first act. During the first act, the kind of elements of the strange in the world are still going to be distant, but will become more involved with them as play continues into the second act. And at that point, we'll basically decide on a specific strangeness element and get rid of the strangeness, which is this kind of general catch-all for all of them. The way that this element works is a little bit odd. At any time during the game, if you feel that if you go down to the bottom, there's a strangeness table, and that has all of the more specific strangeness elements listed there, along with a pair of themes for each of them, such as Our Lady Oblite is cold and forgetting, the Hitchhiker is outsiders and modernity, the Roaming Fen is nostalgia, and the old campsite. If you ever feel like we're hitting on one of those themes, feel free to go into here and click and bump the number there up by 1. Anyone that's holding the strangeness should generally use the table to inform what strangeness is dominant at the moment. So if the slumbering beast has 3 and nothing else has anything, and you want to throw in some strange foreshadowing, you might have haunting dreams occur to some of the campers. But if Our Lady Oblite is dominant, maybe there's a sudden unseasonable frost that comes over the field. This is, of course, a bit of an odd one, but this is generally the when you want to start foreshadowing things in the world, you pick up the strangeness. I should note, like, if people want to check out any of the other ones, I have them hidden for now, but like, I can just unfold them out there. You have all these other setting elements that are will only ever play with a few of these other setting elements at most, usually. But these represent more specific creatures and beings that might come into the world and can either help or hinder us in our fight against the Lindworm. But
is the strangeness one that you pick up secretly, or just like reading this?
You can
so
either
that people
pick it
don't
up.
realize.
Yeah, you can either pick it up secretly or explicitly.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to just say, like, it's I'm leaving it open. It's a bit difficult to kind of work out who's holding what in an online game anyway. So yeah. But I should note, so there's both the strangeness elements, which are things that beings that might help or hinder us, and there are at the far right a few lindworm elements. The lindworm elements are not the lindworm itself, but they're creatures that have been warped and twisted by the lindworm into its minions. The lindworm might introduce them as a lindworm move, and they become threats to everyone in the camp. That whereas the strangeness elements are things that might help us, the lindworm elements are things we have to fight and run away from. So I just wanted to bring those in. I'll just hide them again for now because we don't need to look at them. So those are elements. They're laid out. So what I want to direct people over to now at this point is to, let me go over to, we can skip past charts for now and go to the summer camp tab. And if people could also bring up the Roll20. This is where we're just going to be doing some map drawing now to draw out the map. And I should note that as Bodhi noted, that full list there of strangeness elements includes a lot of the new ones that J Dragon has added with their recent Uncanny expansion. Yeah, so we first off are going to draw and some of the stuff that are kind of part of the setting that are implied by the setting elements. And let me do a screen share. No, not that. Share screen. Share screen. Cool. So here we have the map, our empty field for the map. I kind of want to go in reverse order from me this time. Daryl, why don't you pick from the first column one of those, draw these, and add it somewhere to the map.
Okay. Let's see. Freehand draw. I'm gonna draw the oldest tree in the woods. And then I'm gonna keep drawing on it for a while, so feel free to move on.
Yeah, cool. Going over to Marie, to Arlie. Pick another of those. Draw these.
I will draw the lake somewhere. It's a big lake.
I mean, that's fair. These are kind of the big kind of block. These are kind of the big terrain elements. And looks like you're kind of sketching out the outline of that, but we get a rough idea of where it is.
It's a beautiful lake.
Yeah. Gull, why don't you pick another one?
Okay, I'm going to draw the field at the center of the camp. And if this works for people, I want to make this a perfectly circular field. Well, or more or less, slightly elliptical, maybe. There we go.
Cool. And I think I'll draw the fire pit. I think that I like the idea of a big fire pit kind of And actually, if you could not fill in any more of that blue area here to the far right of your lake, Maria, because I have an idea of what I'm going to pick for my each player chooses one.
Sounds
and
good.
I'll use some of that.
Do you want me to remove some of the borders of this
Nah,
lake?
that's fine. The
Okay.
blue there is fine. I just wanted to save a little area to draw something in there.
Cool.
Because I like the idea of a big open fire area that sits like out on the shore side. And just shame the rest of us. Why don't you, Daryl?
Instead of using my drawing tablet.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it would my fire would still look like this, even if I was using a drawing tablet, Daryl. I'll have you know, proudly. But yeah. Did you want to? Where do you think the bunks are in our camp, Daryl?
Looking at the map as a whole, up here.
And I'm wondering, to map things out here, how deep in the woods do you think the oldest tree is?
I want to say that it's probably like a 20-minute walk. So I think it's like a mile in.
Yeah, cool. So let's just, even though it doesn't say to add in the forest, I just wanted to add in a kind of sense of like, but probably then the forest feeds in around here. Maybe I like the idea of this little dock here. Maybe there's an older, overgrown dock that's no longer used.
Yeah. Maybe I'll make this dock a little darker or like greener to show that it's maybe a little bit mossy and not cared for as well.
But I'll just leave that there to indicate a reminder. But that's about where I think we're saying the edge of the forest is to the rest of the camp.
And I like the idea that the entire kind of northern edge of the lake, or kind of, I don't know if this is compass aligned, but the northern edge on the map, the forest comes right down to the water.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the kind of the woods meet the lake, kind of both literally and in terms of the setting elements.
Cool. And Arlie, did you have that brings us to all of the draw these. Did you have anything from your from that second list that we each pick one?
Oh. I think I will pick the nurse's cabin to draw somewhere. Probably near the field and near the bunks. Are these like different buildings? The four corners?
I was just kind of where I was going to put the bunks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put the nurse's cabin somewhere.
Cool. And Gull, did you have anything you had your eye on?
Yeah, I'd like to put the field everyone dreams about, and I'd like to put that as a kind of hidden glade that doesn't have a path going to it.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that too. The woods, and I was also thinking maybe like at the far shore of the lake.
Ooh, yes.
But like
yes,
no one,
like that.
like no one ever goes out there, but we all dream about it.
That's cool.
Yes. Oh, and there's maybe stories about kind of someone who did, like it's always last year's camp. Someone went out there, but it's always last year's camp.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like that. Do you want to draw that, or should I?
I'll take that since I kind of stole the idea. So feel free to pick something else.
Okay. Why don't you come back to me and I'll have a read through the list.
Does that mean it's my turn to pick something?
Yeah.
But, just because, yeah, I'm gonna go for it. The Secret Kissing Grove, which is gonna be about halfway along the trail to the oldest tree, but then like you take a sharp turn away from the lake. So it's gonna be like, I'll say here-ish.
Cool. And I'll give you more time if you want, Bodhi, and we can just continue on to the group.
I have mine actually.
Sure.
I think I want to pick the swamp full of mosquitoes and say that that's why the old dock was abandoned, why the dock was moved, in that there's an area of wood that kind of like decayed and fell into the lake a little bit and has kind of formed this kind of peaty, boggy swamp around that, and kind of no one really wanted to be around there anymore because of all the insects, and so it's kind of around. I'll draw it in a little bit on that side of the lake.
And then, besides that, we also choose two things that are true of the camp as a group. I note somebody has already, like, I assume, voiced their interest in courageous leaders. That is, of course, besides us. Do courageous leaders work for everyone else? Because I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
And what else do we want to be true of our camp?
I think it'd be cool if there was easy access to public transportation. Like, I don't know, campers keep trying to run off, maybe.
Yeah, is there like a near I want to kind of add to the map the
like a bus stop, or
like the bus stop the campers sneak off to when they think we're asleep
yeah.
to try to sneak off into town.
I keep trying to like scroll up on the shared screen. This is a struggle.
Sorry. Like I kind of imagine if these are here, maybe we have like a bus.
Yeah.
And I imagine also like probably like maybe like cutting across the southeastern section here is maybe an interstate or something. Ah. Cool. And then each of us also chooses one to detail. So how about I'll go clockwise from myself this time. Gull, did you have one that appealed to you?
Let me just have a read through. I think where the path used to go, and I think that there's maybe used to be a path kind of leading out kind of northeast kind of from the old dock, and I think it's been so long that no one really remembers kind of what's at the end of it. It's just kind of there's been a large tree trunk kind of dragged over the entrance to that path,
Yeah.
and it's
Is
kind
it
of
maybe that there's
clearly forbidden.
Yeah, is it maybe that there's another pathway that leads even further into the woods beyond the oldest tree?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, but it's very forbidden, but no one really knows why.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And Barley, did you have one that stood out to you?
Yeah. I want to take where you used to sneak away to watch the sunrise. And I think
Oh yeah, you should add a mountain at some point.
so I was thinking. I think that there's a mountain kind of to the northwest, like so it's overlooking the forest, so you can look, or wait, no, I'm trying to read. Yeah, that is west. So like you would look out that way to see the sunrise. I like had to remind myself.
Yes.
But like there's maybe like a little outcropping on it where it was just like elevated, so you can actually see above the trees, and it never gets muggy.
Thank
It's
you,
just
Daryl.
lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Otherwise, I'll just be like, never eat shredded wheat the entire time.
And Ursula, do you have one that stands out to you there?
Yeah, so I want Where the Witch Was Spotted. And I think that I like the idea that there's like this mountain where people like go to watch the sunrise, but then also that there's this kind of like almost like a these dirt paths, these like rolling hills that are kind of like in the actual west. So and that like someone saw like a witch like through these um, dirt hills, and that maybe like there's a path that leads from the dirt hills up to the mountain or something like that, or maybe that's where the obstacle course is or something. But yeah, like a witch. So let's give a witch's hat.
Yeah. And oh, what do I want? Yeah, I think that I'll go with Where the Frogs Used to Sing. I think maybe there was a small stream that used to feed into the lake from the north, and actually into that place that's now the mosquito-filled swamp. I think maybe that actually it wasn't always so like marshy and overgrown and teeming with mosquitoes, like because it's a still water that like breeds the mosquitoes. But there used to be a more fast flowing stream that frogs would live in. But a few years ago it dried, and it hasn't flowed since, and the frogs have since had to migrate away to other better climes. So I think that takes us to the four thing. To each of us took our one thing, and finally we have what happened last time. These are some suggestions here. We aren't limited to picking only a certain number, but they're things we should talk about, like that because we were all here the last time as children, or like teens. The last time that the lindworm came to the camp, and we should talk about what happened here the last time. And do any of those options stand out to people as things that they think they definitely want to have happened?
If it's okay with everyone else, because I know this directly affects everyone's characters, I'm intrigued by each one of you got a scar in the same place on your faces.
I'm cool with that.
Me too.
Where are our scars?
Yeah, and given your penchant for making stuff up and calling it reading the future, Gull. No offense. What do you think? What do you think our scars are symbols of? What did you read into our scars?
I think I think there's power there. I think there's it's not a scar of weakness. It's not so much where we were hurt. It's kind of more a brand of you're going to be needed again.
Yeah. I'm wondering then if was it not a scar received from the lindworm, but from a creature we encountered in the woods, or perhaps even from an old witch or something like that.
Yeah, I like that, and I want it to be something that isn't like super obvious and visible, because that just
Like, is
seems
it
a bit
maybe
too on the
something
nose.
like behind the ear?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Or, yeah, Ursula?
What about if it was like a certain constellation of freckles
Mm-hmm.
that just like appeared? And it's like it's noticeable because it's like they're all clustered or something like that. And they're all in the same shape and they're all in the same space.
Cool.
Did we just wake
I
up
love
one
that.
morning and notice that? Or
Yes.
And I think, I think I kind of want to play into the idea that that was the same night that one of our friends disappeared, but we have no memory of what happened to them. And kind of hit on that one of your friends died and no one remembers, it's been too long. That like we woke with this mark, one of our friends was gone, and we knew that there was something that had touched us and protected us, and kind of made a deal with us to help to stop the lindworm, but we don't quite remember what.
Can I suggest, and feel free to shoot this down if this doesn't work with your idea, that we went to the camp counselors, the leaders at the time, and like they just didn't know who we were talking about. Like no one, they weren't just disappeared, they disappeared from time. Like they completely kind of went from everything apart from our memories, but we know that they were real.
Yeah, I like the idea though, just to play into the option that we chose for courageous leaders. But like there's the oldest counselor at the camp, who should rightly probably be like the director. They've been here so long, but they just never took up that responsibility and have instead just sort of like just been here at the camp, and nobody knows quite how old they are, but they've always been here. That they're the only like counselor to remember.
Yes.
Because I just want to like tie that we chose courageous leaders, so I want to actually have people here at the camp that aren't just useless.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that it was. Yeah, it would. Yeah, and they're still there, and I think that's at least for Gold. That's maybe the only reason that they came back, is the kind of that person who they trust, who kind of remembered their friend is still there. That's kind of like what drew them back.
Is it that they remember the existence of the friend, but still everyone doesn't remember exactly what happened to them? Like, yes, this person did exist, but do we all have like different ideas of what happened? Or is it just like we all have just a blank space?
Cool. and we can I think that would be cool. I think maybe we can
figure it out.
The exact details of that we don't need to figure out all right now. We can talk about some of that in play once that gets started. But cool. And I think, was there anything else we needed to add? Because I think we took care of, a lot of the bits that we brought, all the bits we brought up in character creation that are important to our individual characters. Yeah, so I'm going to just cut off. I'm gonna cut the recording here for the day, and we'll talk about some of the specific technical stuff for running this in Roll20 that I wanted to bring up with folks. So thanks anyone who's watching this. We look forward to our next session, where we're gonna actually see how these characters interact and play, and what happens once the Lindworm starts making its presence known. I really look forward to it. Until then, and
oh no.
Oh no.
Why must the buttons be like this?
Sorry, of course, I stupidly chose the leave studio rather